All right. So today I'm going to talk to you about learning about pie dough. So you are going to follow along with the screencast and fill out your document. And then you are also going to follow along with the second screencast about kitchen ratios and fill out your document. Okay. So let's get started. So here is, and I will give you access to this, but I do not, under any circumstance, want you guys to just copy and paste exactly what it says. All right, so we're going to talk about pie. Tomorrow you're going to be planning for your pie lab, and then you'll make your pies for your lab for this unit. So the first thing in the first section, following along on 6.4, is what is your favorite kind of pie? So I want you to write down your favorite kind of pie and explain to me why, and then tell the person that's next to you. So just pause this and go ahead and do that now. I'm obviously going to keep going. So the next slide here is going to have a clip on how to make pie dough. If you've never seen how to make pie dough, it's not like making other kinds of dough. It's very technique driven, so it's really important that you see it. So I would watch. It's kind of like making biscuits. So here's a visual of that. So when we talk about pie dough, there are two kinds of pie dough, flaky and mealy. Flaky is exactly what it means. It has layers. It's flaky when you eat it. It like has layers of dough. The fat melts, and that's what creates the flakiness. And then there's mealy, which means it's just mixed. It has the same ingredients. It's just mixed a lot more. So it's more dense. It kind of resembles more of a cookie. All right, so when you're making flaky pie crust, there is a process. So it's very similar to making biscuits. You're going to have flour, a little bit of salt, and then you're going to take fat. So typically recipes either use butter, margarine, shortening. Our recipe is going to use a combination of butter and shortening. Butter adds flavor, shortening adds texture. And you're going to cut it in using a fork or a pastry blender. Some videos you'll see people doing it with their hands, with a dough scraper. We're going to use a pastry blender. And you're going to cut that fat in. It's going to look really shaggy and crumbly looking. Then you're going to add really cold water. And the reason why it's going to be cold is it's going to make the dough stick together, but it's not going to melt your fat. And that's what you want. You just kind of want it to come together. And then you are going to have one big ball of dough. You're going to divide that into a top and a bottom layer, and you're going to let it rest. And it needs to be really cold when you roll it out. So that is the flaky pie crust process. There is a video of this woman from Bon Appetit making it. She uses a rolling method. You can watch it. You have the link in your slides. I'm not going to take the time to do that now. All right, so the next kind of pie dough is the opposite of the flaky. This does not have any flakiness. It is mixed in a kitchen mixer, kind of like a cookie dough. It has less liquid because it's mixed more, so that fat melts. But it's really, like I said, dense, so it's good for a fruit pie because with flaky, you can use flaky crust for a fruit pie, but sometimes it becomes soggy. This will kind of hold its base a little bit more. Think of like a sugar cookie or really like a butter cookie. All right, and again, you can see that clip. They use a kitchen mixer. All right, once you have your pie dough made and you're going to be assembling it, there's different shapes that the pie crust can kind of take on, or different forms. So the first one is your single crust, which is this, it's typically what we call open face. So you bake your raw pie dough with your raw filling. And then you have your pie. So we are going to be making a pumpkin pie with a single crust. So you have your raw dough you shaped, and then you put your raw pumpkin filling in there and you bake it all together. Pecan pie also falls into this category. There's tons of other ones, but those are the two that we are going to make with the single crust. The next type of form is a double crust, and a double crust, which is right here, has a top and a bottom layer of dough, and the filling is kind of encased in the center. This obviously has much more decorative appeal, so typically that happens with a fruit pie. You can also do that with like a chicken pot pie. but it is, the filling is encased in a top and bottom layer. So lattice is just like that. It's a double crust, except instead of rolling it flat like the double crust, you are going to have it take a decorative shape, and the decorative shape in the lattice top is called lattice, also known as a basket weave. And like I said, these are very popular with fruit pies. So we are going to make a double crust apple pie and a lattice cherry pie. Okay. The next form you could take on, you've probably seen this, is a crumb crust, also known as streusel. And you can put the streusel, typically it goes on a fruit pie, Dutch apple pie is the most common. You can also do it on a Dutch peach, Dutch blueberry, Dutch cherry, but the most popular is definitely Dutch apple, and that has the streusel topping. And then the last form would be a tart. This is made with a mealy dough, so it's more like a cookie on the bottom, and it is filled with a cream or a custard, and then you kind of arrange fresh fruit on it. All right. So here, if we were working together, you would tell me 2 things you just learned about pie dough. So kind of think of 2 things you just learned to yourself. All right, next we're going to talk about pie fillings. So when we do our pie lab, everyone's going to be making the same kind of crust, and then you're going to make different fillings to share with the class to assemble your different kinds of pie. So the first type of filling is a fruit filling, which is one of the most popular. And with a fruit filling, you can make it with a fresh fruit, so like apple. We're going to be making a fresh apple pie. So you're just going to cut down those apples, add some flavoring to it, and then bake them, in their raw state. You can also cook them down. It's just going to be a little bit more soft. You can use frozen fruit. You can also use canned pie filling. We're going to be cooking our cherry pie filling down. So we'll use frozen cherries, and then we'll cook them to make a cherry pie filling. So we'll make a fresh apple pie and then a cooked cherry pie. All right. And then the next type of filling is a custard, which has egg and milk into it. And this is very common with pumpkin. So pumpkin pie has pumpkin puree, egg, and then it has evaporated milk, and it takes on a custard form, and you bake it, which it's like a baked pudding almost. All right. Bavarian cream pie, lemon custard pie, those are all different forms of a custard pie. Then we have a cream pie. We're going to make a chocolate cream pie, also known as like French silk. And this is different from a custard pie because with a custard pie, you are mixing the ingredients, pouring it in, and baking it all together from raw. With a cream pie, you bake your crust separately, and then you make your cream filling separate, kind of like a pudding, and it thickens with cornstarch, all right? And you pour your cooked filling into your cooked crust, and then you top with like whipped cream and you garnish it. And then the last kind of pie filling is an entree filling, which is a protein type pie. It's more like you eat it as an entree. So chicken pot pie, we're going to be making a quiche, which is egg. You can add cheese and bacon and whatnot. Also, there's shepherd's pie, which is a crust, like almost like a beef stew in the center, and then you pipe mashed potatoes on the top. So those are all known as entree pies. When you make your cream pie, and I said you're going to have to bake the crust separate, that's called blind baking, which is the process of just baking the pastry crust with nothing in it. You can kind of see in this visual that they have beans in it. You're just putting the beans in there to hold the crust down so it doesn't bubble, which is also why it's important to dock your pie crust to prevent bubbling, but this kind of makes it take its shape, and then it's ready when you put your cooked filling into there. This is another pie crust tutorial, so you can kind of see how to do that. You have the links in your slides that you can follow along with. All right. And now what you're going to be doing is you're going to check for understanding. The checking for understanding you'll work on your own. You'll go through I think there's 8 questions, and then you'll move on to kitchen ratios. Thank you.